Take me home to the banks of the river Tyne. Take me home to the place that I call mine. It's a place I love best, 'cause it's better than the rest. Take me home to the banks of the river Tyne. Take me home to the banks of the river Tyne. Take me home to the place that I call mine. It's a place I love best. Yes, it's better than the rest. Take me home to the banks of the river Tyne.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم في برنامج نيوكاسل مع وليد. معنا اليوم ضيف مميز، موريسون، المذيع التلفزيوني والإعلامي ومدير الإعلام في نيوكاسل سابقا. Welcome lads and lasses to Newcastle the Alwaleed show. We have a special guest, Morrison. Welcome Joe.
سلام كيف حالك؟
الحمد لله تمام. وعليكم السلام Joe.
تمام.
First of all, we would like to congratulate Lions England Euro yesterday was a great achievement for England.
And they beat Germany.
They beat Germany, yeah.
England struggled to beat Germany. 1966, they beat Germany.
How was the game? How was the champion?
I only saw the highlights. I mean, the things that come out of it for me, Alwaleed, are the crowd, unbelievable. And then I saw today in the news that the viewing figures, I think, was over 17 million, which is like, wow, wow, 17 million plus watching the final last night, the Lionesses, the England women's team, which just goes to show you how important the women's game is, number one, and number two, how important it is to be on a free-to-air platform like the BBC and ITV. To get that exposure for the girls is fabulous, but you've got to be able to watch it, and I think we'll talk more about this later, but sometimes it's becoming harder and harder to watch the various competitions. You know what it's like in the Middle East. You watch the Premier League on one channel, you watch the FA Cup on another channel, you watch the Carling Cup or the League Cup on another channel. It's becoming harder. So, but yeah, all praise to the girls. Fabulous inspiration for women's football.
That was a superb night yesterday, and I wish this is continue to World Cup in Qatar. I wish this support or encourage England to finally to make it comes home.
Well, yeah, and you know what? You're going to see. I know people that are already planning to book their tickets to stay in Saudi, to stay in the UAE, to stay in Oman, because you're going to see a lot of fans just descending on the Middle East because it's a nice, easy, short trip to Qatar. And it's difficult to get accommodation in Qatar. You know, it's all booked up, it's busy, it's expensive. So you'll see a lot of fans come into the whole Middle East, but obviously travel over to Qatar for the games.
It's only I think less than 3 months, I think, for World Cup. So are you? What's your expectation for England?
They've got to go and win. They've got to minimum be in the final, and they've got to go and win. And the reason I say that is not as an England fan, which I am. It's because if you want to prove that you're improving as a team, then you've been in the final of the Euros last year, correct? Beaten by Italy. You got so far in the last World Cup in 2018. So, you know, semi-final. So you've got to say, right, okay, the next step is to actually go and win the World Cup. If you really are as good as everyone says you are, everyone thinks you are, you've got to be in the final and you've got to win it. It's as simple as that. And they've got a golden generation to do that. So, you know, I wouldn't expect anything less. I think if England fail in the semi-final, it's not good enough. You've got to go one step further.
Yes, and I think they have what it takes.
Well, yeah, you know, there's so many things that are different, and you just don't know. You know, the weather for us, Alwaleed, in November, December is nice and cool, but not
Yes.
if you're from Europe and you're used to English temperatures in November and December. So how does that affect the players? You know, you've come straight out of a season. Remember, it's because the World Cup this year is crazy in the sense that the season just immediately stops and the World Cup immediately begins. It's like literally back to back. So how will that affect players? You know, because you've already had well, what will it be? How many games? Do you know how many games? Will it be a quarter of the season we have before the World Cup? So you've got August,
12,
September,
I think.
October.
12 games, I think. 12 rounds, I believe.
12 rounds. Because there's an international break in September, isn't there? So we lose a couple of weeks there. But yes, you got August, September, October, beginning of November, and then you're straight into the World Cup, which is different to the season finishing. Then you usually have a month, don't you, before the World Cup begins. So I don't know. There are so many things that you just don't know. And luck, you know, you just don't know.
Hopefully, we wish all the best for England as yesterday to win. Really, we really want to England to raise the World Cup and make it finally coming home. So
we
Joe,
want Kieran Trippier to be holding that trophy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, hopefully. So it's exciting times for Newcastle. And yesterday it was funny. I think one of the players called Tony. So it's Tony it's like Tune. But
yeah.
I searched for her. But she was from Manchester United.
It's an omen. You know what an omen is? It's a sign. It's a
sign. It's a sign. Yes. So it's excited times for Newcastle. A lot of happens since first time we met Joe at the time of the takeover till now. So
look at that long ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Where's the time gone? That's nearly a year.
Yeah, exactly. So how you can describe that time with the takeover and now? What changed?
Obviously, so the last season was just about security. It was about safety. It was about security. It was just, look, let's get through the season without getting relegated. Because when you consider the position, look at those pictures. That is fabulous, isn't it? And what an atmosphere and what energy at that particular point in time. Now it's completely different, Alwaleed. It's not about safety from relegation. Anyone who thinks and goes into this season thinking, yes, you know, we're maybe in a relegation battle, not nonsense, absolute rubbish. And I don't think anyone really thinks that at all. So now it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to go into a season for the first time in how many years, Alwaleed? Feel that we're not having to worry about a relegation fight. It's like, I honestly can't think back. It must be maybe, I don't know. It must be over a decade where you could honestly go into a season believing that Newcastle we're not going to be in a relegation fight. And that's the way I feel right now. That's the first time in over a decade that I feel like that. And I think that's a good thing. Then it's about expectation, isn't it? What's your expectation? What are the fans' expectations? What's everyone's expectation for Newcastle? Me personally, it's 7th or 8th. That's the realistic expectation this season. If it's below 8th, Newcastle, in my opinion, have failed this season. Above 7th is like, woo, fabulous.
7 to 8 is big difference. We want a European seat.
Yeah, correct. I mean, you want to go as far as possible, don't you? But what I'm saying to you is, if you look at the teams above from last season, you've got obviously the top two, Liverpool and Manchester City. You've got Chelsea there, Spurs in there. You've got Manchester United in there. How many is that? Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, Spurs, Man United. That's 5. Who am I missing? 6. I'm missing
Spurs, Chelsea,
Arsenal. So, you know, there's 6 very strong teams that, from the business that we've done so far, do you expect to better those 6 teams? I don't know. You know, on the day that they could beat certainly 4 out of those 6 teams. So then it's a case of what's your expectation after that? Yes, we want Europe. Yes, we want a run in the Cup, in the FA Cup or the League Cup. But you should be challenging Leicester, or it was Leicester, wasn't it? Leicester and West Ham, who finished 7th and 8th last season. So that's my expectation. That is my expectation this season.
Yes, and last season, as you said, Joe, we were worried about relegation. Now we are worried, are we getting Bakita or Madison?
Isn't it a great feeling?
Yes. And even for me, I want better than Madison and Bakita. Want better than that.
You know what? It doesn't matter who you talk about. It's just nice to be talking about these players. Let's just assume for a second, Alwaleed, that they don't come. Yeah, let's just assume it's a rumor and it's not for real.
Yes.
But isn't it a great feeling? Last summer, the January transfers in the years before that, the summer transfer windows in the years before that, you couldn't even have this conversation. And that's the difference now. It's that feeling that we can talk about a player for 40 million, for 50 million, for 60 million or more. You couldn't have that conversation before.
All what I remember is Hamza Chaudhry coming for a loan or not.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just like, it feels sometimes like it's a different team. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly.
Sometimes like it's a different club. Like one season you were supporting Burnley, no disrespect to Burnley, and then the next season you're supporting a top 6 team or a top 8 team, and you know.
And you can see now Madison want to leave to a better team.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's totally crazy, and every day when I read the sports news or I read the rumors, I'm just like, is this the same club from last summer? You know, when this time last year, did you predict there was going to be a takeover this time last year? Or sorry, a month ago, let's say last year? Would you gone, yes, it's definitely going to happen? None of us knew.
Yes, even in September. Even if
We
September.
We hoped,
yeah.
We hoped, but we didn't know. Everything was inshallah, maybe, you know.
It's a great, really great times to be a Newcastle fan. Especially here, we have huge fans from Saudi Arabia, increasing every day. I would like to ask you, Joe, about, we'll go to the transfer and the rumors and the players, but we would like to have your analysis with the backstage signings. We see lately Darren Elias signing for CEO, and Dan Ashworth. Those backstage signings as well. It's considered a huge signing for Newcastle. Not player related.
Yeah, you're talking about the administrators, aren't you? You're talking about the directors, and I think those two signings were fabulous, and I think they're really important. And I'll tell you why they're important. Amanda Stavely, Medad, all of them that have been involved since the takeover. Nowadays, a football club and a Premier League football, and I saw behind the scenes when I worked at Newcastle United, there is so much pressure. There are so many decisions, multi-million dollar or euro have to be made every single day. And it takes energy. It can suck your energy. And as much as I think Amanda has fabulous energy, you can't continue that forever. You need that team. So we talk about the team on the pitch. We talk about the support team in terms of the backroom staff. But very few people talk about the administration, the administrative team. And you need people who are specialists in their area to support you, because as much as Amanda has been brilliant in terms of driving through the takeover with the support of PIF and obviously legal support as well, running a football club day to day is 24 hours, 7 days a week, and she wouldn't be able to sustain it for the next 5 years. You just get burned out. So they need that, and it's great to see them doing that, because me personally, I don't believe she'll be front and center of the football club 5 years from now. So you have to put the foundations in place to make sure that the club can run itself without Amanda being in the office every morning, whenever she gets in, 6 a.m., being there at 6 o'clock at night. She has a young, is it a daughter? She has a young daughter, I think. So, you know, she's a mother. She wants to spend time with her kids growing up. So you need that support. And those two in particular that you're talking about, Dan Ashworth as well, they are well respected in their fields. I think they are hugely important, because what they bring is they bring a contact network. You know, they have built up experience in their own separate fields. They can pick up the phone, as Dan Ashworth already has done. He can pick up the phone and he can talk to his opposite number in other football clubs, in other countries even. And you need that. You need that.
Are we expecting, do you think, more signing administration?
Yes. It might be lower level. It might not be quite as high level, but they will need support as well, because they'll probably want to build a team. You've got to remember, like, you know, we talk about the training ground, we talk about facilities, we talk about backroom staff were run very thin during Mike Ashley's era. The same applies to the administration staff. You know, Newcastle United is a huge football club. The business of football is huge. So you can't just operate with me and you. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure that we would try our best, but the two of us is just not enough manpower. It's not enough. It needs a team of people, you know, support staff, administrators, legal, which will be a big thing. You know, you need a team of lawyers when you're, in particular, when it comes to facilities. For example, the training ground. You don't just go in and say, there's our plan for a training ground. You have to have lawyers in behind the scenes who are experts with planning permission and know how to work with the council to get things approved. That's a whole team of people. Now, a lot of that will have been brought in from outside consultants, which is fine. But you also need your in-house staff as well, especially as the club expands its footprint. Newcastle United for a lot of years has been, how do I say it, Alwaleed? A local club. It was an international club when I was there. And the reason I say that is we could step off the plane anywhere in the world, and there was a huge fan base, especially in Southeast Asia, to come and meet us. Yeah, that's died a little bit, and Newcastle need to build that back up. Look at the fan base that Liverpool have now, that Manchester United, well, Manchester always had it, that Manchester City have built over recent years. Newcastle has got to reconnect with that audience. In every single part of the world, there's a Newcastle United fan club, but they're small. Yeah, just a few there and a few in this corner of the world. When I was at Newcastle United, they were much bigger, and they need to go back to that. Does that make sense?
Exactly, and I want to say that we tried to make a fan club in Saudi Arabia with the help of Newcastle team. What the response was, Newcastle doesn't have internal structure for fan base out of UK.
Was this before the takeover or after?
After. Just right after. So
there's a perfect example, Alwaleed.
Exactly.
And you're missing an opportunity because every fan, and I hate to say this because it's about football first and commercial second, but every fan is a revenue stream. Every fan that gets on a plane, you've been to Newcastle, you've experienced it, to buy that ticket at the stadium, to buy the shirt, to buy any merchandise. It's a revenue stream. Each fan that you create is a revenue stream. And Newcastle, because I bet you in Saudi Arabia at the moment, Alwaleed, most fans are Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, maybe Liverpool, perhaps. So you've got, and what's the population? What's the young population of Saudi? 20 million young people in Saudi? More?
Exactly.
Less?
Yeah. The young Saudi, you can say 20, 25. Yeah.
Right. So 20, 25 million. So there's a potential market that you want to convert the young ones, take them away from Real Madrid and make them Newcastle fans, yes? But to do that, it requires resources, it requires money, it requires, just as you're talking about, it requires a team, it requires the club coming and visiting Saudi. Sometimes it might be the players, it might be the whole team, it might be the marketing team. All of those things are important to put Newcastle United back up to being a global football club, which it was in the 90s with the entertainers. Everyone knew about Newcastle. Even if you didn't support them as your first team, they were your second team because they were so entertaining to watch. So everyone wants Newcastle to get back there, but to do that requires effort. It requires, as you're talking about, administrators. It requires support staff, marketing.
Regarding marketing, as you, Joe, you were a former director of media, digital media in Newcastle. How I can tell you that we feel here in Saudi Arabia shortage of media, since beIN Sport, they control most or all of so we suffer here that we didn't have that good coverage regarding Newcastle and Premier League, only by beIN. I'm just a fan. Maybe I don't have much. I don't have much details or information, but wish that kind of. Is it possible to have some kind of cooperation between beIN by local, maybe Saudi channel or UK channel, NFC channel, just for Saudi fans?
So with regards to NUFC itself, I'm guessing you're talking about the club channel. That's very difficult. In fact, it's impossible at the moment, the way the contracts are. So that wouldn't happen. What may happen is they may be a deal, and I've heard a lot of rumors that that's going to happen soon, where Saudi media, one of the Saudi, maybe Saudi Sports, SSC, they might take the rights, but Saudi Arabia for Premier League. That's a possibility, because you got to remember, in the Middle East, beIN Sports has all of the countries, correct? But if you go to Europe, one company has the rights for Spain for the Premier League, another company has I'm talking about TV company, has the rights for Portugal, another company has the rights in Germany, France, as well as obviously Sky Sports have the rights in the UK and Ireland. So it's country by country in Europe, but in the Middle East, it's always been the whole Middle East. So if the money is there, if the numbers are there, I can see breaking up into country by country, not immediately, but over the next few years, because it's in Saudi's interest with the PIF owning Newcastle United to have some sort of connection and control over the coverage, because you're absolutely right. beIN Sports are a traditional team. they are always going to show and talk about Liverpool, Man City, Manchester United. They're never going to talk about Newcastle in the same level until Newcastle's fighting for the league title, which is not going to happen.
Yes.
Not going to happen next. So what I think may happen down the line, maybe 5 years, is that I can see the Premier League going direct to country. That is going to come at some point. So you would subscribe to the Premier League app, and you would get direct from the Premier League. You would get the content in your country. So Formula One are going down that road already within a few countries. The Premier League almost did this in Singapore. This 3-year rights cycle, they almost did it, and I don't know why they backed out. But they were going to use Singapore as the test case, whereby in Singapore you didn't subscribe to a TV channel, you subscribe to the Premier League app, because a lot of people watch on their mobile phone, and now you can AirPlay your phone to your TV, so you can watch, your app on your TV. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and with that, you would subscribe directly to the Premier League. So you'd pay a subscription fee each month or per year, and you'd pay it direct to the Premier League. So that is going to come. That is coming. When it comes, who knows? Maybe 3 years, maybe more.
But Joe, the thing you said about SSC, is it right for Premier League or just Newcastle games?
I think it would be the Premier League. I don't think the Premier League would allow them to separate Newcastle games from the rest of the Premier League.
Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Wolverhampton have this kind of deal for Korea.
For where? Sorry.
For Korea, South Korea.
Right. Okay. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard rumors of SSC or one of the Saudi channels taking the rights for the Premier League for Saudi Arabia. That's a possibility, but I haven't heard them taking just Newcastle United. And the Wolves in South Korea. I'm guessing it's South Korea, not North Korea. Do Wolves have the games live? Is it the 3 o'clock game? Is it the Friday night game? Is it the Monday night game when Wolves are playing? Is it highlights? So you understand that there are so many packages, and this is what's happening with the tech giants. Obviously, you know that I worked with Facebook. Some of the tech giants are taking certain packages. So, for example, I think Twitter have the NFL, American football. I think they have just the Thursday night game, for example. I don't know what's happening in South Korea, but it might be that they just have, when Wolves are playing on a Sunday, they might have the Sunday game. When Wolves are playing on a Friday, they might just have the Friday game. I don't know.
Brilliant, Joe. I wish just Newcastle to not make any options for the fans in Saudi, only to follow Newcastle. Surprisingly, today, as we're still speaking about the media, Premier League launched the Arabic account, official Arabic account, Premier League in Arabic. They launched it today.
I thought they already had an official Arabic Premier League account. I'm shocked that hasn't been done before.
This is just today, and the account is September 2021, which was for me. It's like old account, but they maybe hold the name. So speaking of that, when we are, a lot of fans in Saudi Arabia ask me why there is no Arabic account Twitter for Newcastle.
Exactly the same reason as we were talking about before. It requires a team put in place to do that, and they will do it. I'm just guessing that they haven't hired the people yet. You got to remember, it's only last year that they took the football club over, and you and I both know how many problems, the list of problems that Newcastle need to fix, training ground, everything. Where fixing the Arabic social media accounts is probably number 20 on their list of
So is it that hard to establish?
No, it's relatively easy, but what you'd have to have is you'd have to make sure that, number one, you hire, because Alwaleed, there's different dialects in the Arabic world. So you need someone who understands the difference between certain words in Saudi in comparison to Iraq or Syria, or the different dialects. So I think they'll be hiring people, or looking to hire people now. They'll do it. They'll do it.
For me, I would be happy to be involved for this Arabic course.
I think you'd be perfect. I think you'd be
Thank you, Jeff.
Because you need someone who's passionate about the club, number one. Well, it's very easy to be passionate, but you also need someone who has good knowledge going back, historical knowledge. And you have history, you have historical knowledge. You know what happened to Newcastle United, not just last season, but the season before, but 5 years ago and 10 years ago. You'd be absolutely perfect,
I really appreciate that, Joe. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but there's one other side that I'll say. It's not just about exposing yourself and providing an Arabic social media channels. You have to have a strategy in place that is connected to commercial, because it's not just about getting out Newcastle news in Arabic, but it's also about how can we connect to the fans and increase that revenue stream and increase that income. So they'll be thinking as well, number one, social media, get the message out in Arabic, but number two, selling more shirts, selling more merchandise, selling anything, selling tickets, selling packages, selling everything. You see what I'm saying? It's like, so they'll be looking at that right now, because we had to do that when I was at Newcastle. So you talked about me being involved with the digital media of Newcastle. It was right at the early days of the internet. When I started at Newcastle United, which was 2001 season, it was still 56k. So every time you logged on, it was like. So that's how slow it was. But the reasoning behind it was not just because it was the start of the explosion in the internet and every club having a website. It was connected to commercial, so that they could sell things online through the club shop, the online club shop. So it was right in the early days of that. So we weren't just there to get news on the internet, on the club's website. We were there to get news on the club's website, but also constantly have meetings and strategy about how we could link it to the club store, how we could sell something, You see what I'm saying?
Yes. If we can just this quickly regarding fans complaining about the delivery of the shirts.
What? Is it bad in Saudi Arabia? Are you talking about Saudi Arabia, or are you talking about in general?
No, the shirts of Newcastle, when we order it through the Castory or through the new company known, it's take too much time, and fans were surprised why.
Well, I don't know. I'm not involved in the
commercial. I'm just taking your opinion.
My opinion would be, number one, is it unique to only Newcastle? Are there other clubs that are struggling? Because I've heard of other clubs that are struggling to get their merchandise out. You got to remember, the whole world has changed since COVID. There are supply chain issues. Goodness me, Alwaleed, they can't even deliver cars on time. When someone gets a car. So,
okay.
Supply chains around the world have changed drastically. And where are the shirts made, by the way, the Newcastle shirts? Are they made in China? Are they made in Vietnam?
Well, I'm not really sure, but I always saw Turkey have first appearance of the shirts.
Turkey? Yeah, they might be made in Turkey.
Castory. I don't know the Castory source.
If any of your audience are watching this now and can Google it or know the answer, let me know. I would like to know where they're made. But anyway, the point I'm making is, for example, if it's made in China, China has serious problems with making and shipping stuff because they've been in the longest COVID lockdowns than anyone. So it might be a reason like that they can't get produce out because the factories are closed or whatever. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
We'll talk about the transfers, but beside transfers, what do you think Newcastle now needs from your experience? Regardless of transfer, which we're going to be through that now.
Are you talking about players?
No, we're going to talk about the players. I mean, rather than players, what Newcastle needs now to work on in general.
Goal scorers. Got to have goal scorers. Is that what you mean? Is that what you're asking?
No, not the players. Other than players.
About
the club, yeah, what they should do.
Right.
Regarding advertising, regarding marketing, regarding media, in general. Do you think, or they are covering everything? You think?
No, they're not. But then I'm not going to complain because everything takes time, and they've just been fixing through all of the problems that they've been, we've had over the last year since the takeover. So I would not.
What do you think? What do you think should be the first now?
So I'll tell you what they need. They need a global strategy. They need a global strategy, and the reason is that you know this because you've been brought up, you've lived, born, raised in Saudi Arabia. You're a global football fan. So you have to separate the fans. There's the local fans who you enjoyed a fantastic time with in the Newcastle region in the northeast. And then there's the global fan base. And the global fan base are the ones that are going to generate you your big revenue. Yeah. They've overtaken the Premier League in terms of the TV rights, the global audience. So they've overtaken the domestic audience with regards to Premier League's TV rights. So they must have in place, in my opinion, a global strategy. Where are we going next with this football club outside of England, outside of the United Kingdom? How are we going to get people walking down the streets of Riyadh in Newcastle United shirts? Yeah. In the UAE, I see a lot of Man City kicking around. So how are we going to expose the world to that? How are we going to re-energize, for example, the Southeast Asia sport base? It was huge in the 1990s and early 2000s. It was massive. But remember, if you were 20 years old in the year 2000, you're 42 now. So has your son or your daughter growing up becoming a Newcastle fan, or have they turned to Liverpool because they've had success in recent years? Have they turned to become a Manchester City fan? So when you ask me what does the club need to do next, they have got to have their sole focus on how do we make this club appealing and exciting globally.
Yeah, how to start that in general?
Well, so there are two ways to do it. That one is we were already talking before about them building an administrative team behind this, and to have the team was tiny over the last 10 years. It's like you could probably fit the entire administration backroom team into this kitchen that I'm sitting in at the moment. It was that small. So you've got to expand the team, get the people in who are experts in knowing how to get that message out around the globe. I mean, a guy who I have huge appreciation for, huge. And in my particular industry, I think he's a hero. And that is a guy called Paul Rodgers. And Paul Rodgers was the guy that took Liverpool Football Club to the next level. He went on to work with Roma. Now, Roma is not the biggest football club in Italy. But if you look at their social media numbers, they were right up, So people like that have an understanding of how we get the club out to a big global audience. You understand?
Yeah, we have big Roma fans here in Saudi.
Yeah, and I bet you a lot of the Roma fans have come about because of what Paul Rodgers did at Roma and his strategy and his way of, and he obviously he's an Englishman, to go to Italy and to switch into Italian culture, into the Roma fan culture, and then to portray that to the world. He's done a fabulous job. I think he's just moved to New York, actually. I think he's working with someone in America. Anyway, so there's that's one side. And the other side is on the field, which is you've got to have someone, a player that excites you. Who excited you when you were younger? You know, Gaza. So you've got to, I mean, you go through that entire squad and be honest here, Alwaleed, who excites you in that team? Who makes you want to go, oh, I want to see him? I'll be honest, the only player that makes me sit on the edge of my seat in Newcastle at the moment is Bruno.
Bruno, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, he's a playmaker, he's exciting, he makes things happen, whether it's a flick or a trick or... So, I don't know whether we discussed this the last time. In my particular field, in my industry, we talk a lot about the 15% and the 85%. And this comes from Dana White in the UFC. 15% of your fans are hardcore fans. They're core. They'll watch every single UFC contest, no matter what. There's 15% of your global audience will watch that particular football club, no matter when they're playing, no matter whether it's a friendly, a cup competition, no matter what. What you're trying to attract is the 85%. My mother, right, here's a joke. My mother, she's what I call the 85%. She doesn't watch any football, but as soon as the World Cup happens every 4 years, she watches every game. Every game.
That's nice. That's a great.
But so do you understand what I mean? She's the type of person. How do you get these people? So with regards to UFC, Conor McGregor is a classic example. He's the 85%. People will switch on UFC to watch Conor McGregor, but they won't watch other UFC fights because of the 85%. So coming back to where this began, you're trying players into the team who attract those where your sister, your father, who might not be big into football, if you're from the Middle East or the Far East or the Asian subcontinent, get them to watch on. Ooh, he's exciting. You know, I mean, the greatest example is Messi, isn't it? It doesn't matter where you're from in the world, Messi excites you. So on the field of play, it's bringing those kind of players into the team that go, wow, you know, like really exciting. They're going to, you know, do off the field and on the field.
This is a great input, Joe. Really, we're learning too much from you. Transfers. So now everybody talking about Werner. So let's talk a little bit your opinion about these players. Werner, last thing we hear, Di Marzio today says that he's Leipzig from Germany. They want the player to fully back to the club, not by loan. So and still they're saying not that the deal with Newcastle is not dead, could be come to Newcastle. What's your take on this?
So my take is it's difficult for Eddie because he's trying to build a team. I mean, I don't agree with the transfer window ending after the season starts, but that's another argument for another day. It doesn't help coaches. It doesn't help anybody. But one thing I'll say, he wants to get in the young talent, and clearly the club have a policy of signing young upcoming players that can really show something in the years to come. However, if you cannot get someone in that you want, that young player, because they're not ready to come, or the club wants their club wants too much money, can't agree a fee, whatever, you've still got to get in goal scorers. Alwaleed last season, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Villa, who finished below us, scored more goals than us. You understand? It's like, so we had two problems last season, goal scoring and defence. Now, Eddie sorted the defence. I'm really comfortable with...
Me too. But the goal scorer, really, we still have a problem. I don't know why.
Goal scorer, I'm not comfortable with. I'm not comfortable that we go through this season with getting goals. And like I said at the beginning when we were talking, right at the start of this interview, you have a very, very weird season this year because of when the World Cup is. So you're going to have games coming back to back to back. Normally in January, there's a few weekends free for the FA Cup. Not this year. So if you're going to rely on just one player to score goals,
which is Wilson, why do you think Eddie Howe is comfortable with that?
I don't think he is comfortable with that. I think he wants in before the close of the transfer window at the end of this month. I think he wants another proven goal scorer in, minimum one. So, because you're hoping that you're going to go midfield, but you still need, especially in the Premier League, you still need a proven goal scorer. You can't have an experimental goal scorer from, let's say you can't have a 17-year-old goal scorer from another European league. You do not know if they come into the Premier League and they'll fire straight away.
Werner gonna do it?
It's too much of a... What?
Werner. Timo Werner. Is he the guy? Hardly.
It's hard to say. Is he quality? Yes, absolutely. Is he right for Newcastle? I wouldn't say no, but then I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, who do you think we can solve this issue with?
Well, the first thing you've got to ask. The first thing you've got to ask, like, is what's your budget? How much?
Well, with the loan we hear about, I think our budget is great.
What do you think? What do you think if I said to you, let's say you are Amanda or Dan Ash, how much you got to spend on a striker? How much would you say? How much do you think?
Well, I will.
70 million?
I will,
60
for
million?
example,
100 million?
For example, I want like Napoli striker Osimhen, the Nigerian. I think he's fit for Newcastle. We need this kind of style for play. He's score for fun, as you said always.
Right. Okay. And yeah, I like him as well. But do you think? Sorry, are you absolutely sure, 100%, that he could walk from that league into the Premier League and score goals immediately first season?
In my expectation, yeah, it could be.
You'd put your house on that?
I didn't have a house, but I would.
Would you put your majlis on that?
For example,
you understand what I'm saying? It's Would you put your swimming pool on it?
At least, he's not like Wilson. Wilson a great player, but he's could be injured any minute.
So Sir Alex Ferguson, when I was talking to him, this was a few years back. He used to always have 4 strikers.
4, yeah, I always like that from him.
And what he did at the beginning of every season is he went through his what he called his first team squad, which was not the whole squad, but it was like 11 players plus maybe half a dozen others, which he knew were going to take him through the season, because obviously you get injuries and suspensions, etc. So let's say about 16 to 18 players. And he would go through and he would jot down how many goals he thought each of them was going to get, because he knew from his experience how many goals he needed to win the league each year. So, for example, defender might get 1 goal per season or 2 goals per season. A fullback might get 2 or 3. Midfielder, his expectation was always high single figures or just double figures. So he expected his midfielders to get 9 or 10 or 11 goals per season. And then obviously your strikers, you want to be getting 20 goals a season. So you have to look at it the same and say, put the Newcastle team on a piece of paper, look at how many goals you scored or didn't score last season, and then say, right, for the, I said my expectation was 7th, 8th minimum. So look at them, look at those teams and say, how many goals did they score last season? Yeah, and I don't know the numbers. I think it's probably in the 50s somewhere. So maybe it's mid-50s, something like that. Maybe he's pushing 60 or 61. This is just off the top of my head. So someone message me now and tell me exactly how many goals Leicester scored or West Ham scored. And then you have to go, right, where are our goals going to come from and how many are we going to get? And you can go through the entire Newcastle team, look back at last season, look at the season before and say, right, the right back got this many goals, the left back got this many goals, the centre midfielder got this many goals, and then see what number you come to. And you have to come to a number that's bigger than it was last year. You've got to come to a number that's bigger than it was last year. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, and hopefully Eddie Howe think the same way, because really, Wilson for me is not enough.
No, he's not enough. He's not enough, and like I say, they need. Yeah, that's the only thing. Relegation, we don't have to think about that this season.
Yes, and Chris Wood also. Also, he's not in a good stage at the moment.
Is Chris Wood going to get you 20 league goals next season? No. So well, you see what I'm saying? So even though relegation doesn't worry me anymore, I can relax this season about relegation. I don't relax about the goal scorers this season.
Do you think
about the amount of goals that are going to be scored this season? I don't worry about. Sorry, Alwaleed. I don't worry about the amount of goals that are going to be conceded this season. I'm now really comfortable and really relaxed with the defence. I know we're going to have a much tighter season in defence. Goals conceded, but goals scored.
Any name you think can solve this in particular? Solve this issue for us? And for me, I choose Uzmihin, for example. You have a specific name?
So I would only look at players who are already in the Premier League because you can't take risks. So I like Timo Werner. I really do.
Timo Werner.
And I would take him. There may be one or two other players that you might say, and I don't know what their policy is. There's other people watching this who'll know better. Maybe they don't want to take loan signings in terms of strikers, or maybe the clubs don't want to release a player on a loan signing. They want to actually sell the player, because that's happened before. So, players that are, but they're quality players. I think of someone old of like Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford is not a bad player, but clearly unhappy. Does he fit into Eric Ten Hag's new system? Is that the type of player that you could get on loan? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. He might not want to come. He might not want to leave Manchester. Hag might let him go. But what I'm talking about, the principle is that type of player who is clearly quality, clearly has talent, but has gone through a couple of bad seasons where he's not happy. Maybe he wants to revive his career. Maybe because this is the other thing, the World Cup. There are players who are not number one choice in their teams at the moment, and they want to get into their national team squad for the World Cup. So what would you rather do? If you're a player, are you going to sit on the bench at one of the big clubs? You may not get into the national squad, World Cup. Everybody wants to play at the World Cup. Or would you like to go on loan or even transfer to a club where you'd be first name on the team sheet up front, and you'd get that opportunity? I know what I would do. And if I was an agent, I know what I would recommend to my player.
Yes, and I think the time close, the mercato will close. A lot of transfer will coming quickly. Everybody now is bluffing. That's okay. We are fine. But
exactly.
Yeah, everybody is bluffing now. But now it's getting more serious.
What happens in the last week of this month? Just watch what happens.
Yes. Yeah.
Eddie Howe is saying things in press conferences, but you know what's going on inside his mind. What did he say? Was it the weekend? He said, "No more." We say no more. He said, "I don't think there'll be any more incomings."
Yeah, it's like cold. It's cold blood. Yeah. But he's yes, exactly. Okay. Who you think is the closer, Madison, or who you prefer, Madison? As we now hear that almost he's Newcastle fans. They are only 10 million negotiating, as maybe called Newcastle tax, or Bakita.
Madison.
Do you think he's close to Newcastle as news today and yesterday?
Maddison. I'm going to go with Maddison.
Yeah, do you think he's close to Newcastle? Now they are 10 million different. The second bid is 50 million, but been saying journalism been saying 60 million they asked for.
10 million difference is nothing in a transfer.
It could be bonus.
It's what they
Adds
might
on.
do is, you know, sometimes what they'll do is they'll just construct the deal slightly differently. So you're right, it might be a bonus. They'll say, right, we'll agree on 45 million, and then on top of that we'll give you another 10 million. You know, if he hits these targets, then you know, the bonus added on top of that. 10 million. Now, if two clubs, I've always believed 20 million plus, so 25 million plus is a gap where you've got a problem. Yeah. So when you're 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, and one club, I'm going to go up by 5 million or 10, your gap is too big. You've got a problem. One club must change their position, So the selling club must come down or the buying club must go up. But 10 million, nothing. It's nothing in a transfer.
Joe, I would like to ask you this. My friend insists for me to ask this question to you. He really want to know, and he said that he just wants opinion, and he think that Eddie Howe prefer English player more than others. What do you think? He said Nick Bob as a goalkeeper, for example, Madison, not Paqueta. So I'm not really sure how to answer this for him.
So I would agree with that, actually. And I think it's smart on Eddie Howe's part right now, the way they're building the team. Because what you've got to think about, Alwaleed, is the team now and what the team will be 5 years from now. So you go through every member of that team and say, in every position, and say, will this player be there as a starting player 5 seasons from now? So at the beginning, he needs players, number one, that he can trust, but more importantly for a coach, he needs players that he can communicate with. Yeah, that's the most important thing. And sometimes coaches will favor, and this is not just Eddie Howe, you'll find Jose Mourinho in his early days was always bringing Portuguese players into his team because he could communicate with them in the heat of a battle, in the changing room at half time, struggling. You know, the language is the same, and it's easy for him to communicate. So all coaches do it. Or bring in players, and it's not because they think English players are better than foreign players. It's because of the communication. You know, when you have not got the strongest team or the best team in the Premier League, you need to make sure that you can communicate. And I think that's something that Eddie Howe is doing. So does he favour English players? No. Does he favour native English-speaking players? Yes, which are kind of one and the same thing. But it could be a Scottish player. It could be, you know.
Yes, this is a great answer. I hope they
the translator as well sometimes because their accent is so strong.
I hope my friend is enjoying the answer now. Thank you, Joe. I just have some photo from your account, and I passed this today, and I thought to talk about it. And I know how Sir Bobby Robson mean to you. So, what you can say about these 13 years?
I remember. First of all, I can't believe 13 years ago. I'll tell you 2 stories. One is this particular night that this photo was taken. That was in the Nou Camp in Barcelona. And what happened was we went across to play the Champions League game. It was, I think it was a group stage game, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know if it was the year. Someone is going to correct me here. But in my early years at Newcastle United, there were 2 group stages to the Champions League. Now it's only 1, but there were 2 then. And I think it was one of those group stages. So there was a torrential downpour, like something from the gods, on the Tuesday night when we were supposed to play the game. And the pitch flooded. And that's where this photo was taken. And it was the most amazing rain that I've ever seen. There was lightning. like bolts of lightning and thunder were bouncing off the flagpoles. So on the top of the Camp Nou, there's a whole load of flagpoles with flags on them, and the lightning was striking the flagpoles and making sparks. Yeah, it was crazy. And nobody knew whether we were going to have to fly out that night because the pitch was unplayable. I mean, it was literally like the referee came out with the ball to do the test, and the ball just went like 6 inches. You know, it just stuck in the mud. Or would we come back the next night and play the game the next night? And in the end, they decided to play it the next night, which meant that the Newcastle fans, it was so funny because so many Newcastle fans came over just for the day and the night, and then were flying back after the game to go to work the next morning. There'll be fans watching this who remember this. Well, what they all had to do when UEFA the next night, they were all phoning sick, so they didn't have to go to work the next day. So, and then we stayed over and played the game the next night. But the crazy thing about that pitch, that Nou Camp pitch, and I was broadcasting on the Nou Camp pitch right next to it last year, is about 1 hour after they cancelled the game, the pitch was completely drained and was playable, no problem. Like there was no water on it. So if they just delayed the game by an hour, then they probably could have done it. But it was a crazy, crazy night, and that's where that photo is from. And I remember getting back to the hotel, and I was just soaked. Like everything was wet. Even my underwear was wet. It was just like everything was absolutely drenched.
What do you think Sir Bobby was thinking at that moment with this photo taking?
He was probably wondering if we could play the game as well.
Yes,
you know, like,
yeah.
but I know. So I'm joking, but I'm serious because Sir Bobby Robson was the coach of Barcelona for a year before he moved upstairs. So he knew the Barcelona pitch. And I remember him saying it, because the Barcelona pitch is kind of slightly raised a little bit. It's like I'm trying to find a, you know, like Manchester United's pitch is slightly raised. It's not at the same level as the ground.
Which allow the water to absorb or to
yes, exactly.
To
yeah. So he probably knew from his experience that this pitch drains very quickly from when he was Barcelona coach. So he probably felt that they could play the game, but it was not his decision. It was the referee's decision and UEFA's decision. And you know, it was like the fans that had to go back. Whew, the airlines, they charged ridiculous prices to get the fans back to Newcastle that night, because some fans immediately got on the phone and said, I need to go back, the game's cancelled. And then it was only later that UEFA said, right, we're going to play the game the next night. So it was crazy. But yes, amazing guy. I can't believe it was 13 years ago. I was invited and went to his memorial service at Durham Cathedral. And that tells me so much about who he was as a person. I wasn't one of his football players, Alwaleed. I wasn't one of his backroom staff. I wasn't a colleague from the world of football. I just worked at the club. And he you know, left instructions for quite a few of us who worked at the club to be invited to his memorial service at Durham Cathedral. And it was packed. It was absolutely packed. And the funny thing was, I was sitting at the front on to the left-hand side of where everyone was giving a reading. So Sir Alex Ferguson stood up and gave a speech, and Gary Lineker stood up and gave a speech. So I was sitting at the front on the left, and there was a seat next to me that was empty. And I thought, and the whole cathedral was just full. So I couldn't understand how this seat was empty. And then at the very last minute, just before the service began, in walked Jose Mourinho and sat down in this space next to me at the front, because he just got off a flight. He was late or whatever, but just arrived in time for Sir Bobby's memorial service. But I can't believe it was 13 years ago. It feels like yesterday or last week, you know.
Yeah, it's a sad story, but it's a great story. Rest in peace, Sir Bobby. Last picture. I saw this. It was quite taken. I think this is where you are looking at the moment, or?
Yeah. So obviously everyone knows this picture is Table Mountain, and you wouldn't believe it, but like I feel like there's so many Saudis here in Cape Town. Like,
yeah, Saudis are everywhere.
why do all the Saudis come to Cape Town? But the last time I was here in Cape Town was the 2010 World Cup here in South Africa. So I haven't been back to Cape Town since then. So there's a lot of memories for me at the moment of the World Cup, and good memories in terms of the city, bad memories in terms of England. Remember the goal that wasn't given against Germany? I remember going to watch the England-Algeria game, was it? It was the worst game of England football I think I've ever seen in my life. It was desperately bad. So the football didn't have happy memories, but the city does.
This was so great, Joe. Really appreciate your appearance with us tonight. Was lovely show. Really appreciate it, and hope to see you soon.
شكرا.
شكرا لكم للمتابعة. كان معنا جو موريسون، المذيع التلفزيوني والمدير الإعلامي السابق لنادي نيوكاسل يونايتد. نأمل أنكم استمتعتم معنا. شكرا لكم وتصبحون على خير.